All right, what's up, guys? So my name's Josh. I am going to give my top five movie rankings from 2013. But first, I'm going to give two honorable mentions, movies that I really like from this year, but I wasn't able to put on the list. So the first one is The World's End, Edgar Wright movie. It's really funny. It's really fun. I've rewatched it more than once, and it always makes me laugh. Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, obviously hilarious together. It's a fun little movie. And the other movie that I was wanting to put on this list is Snowpiercer, which is really fun. It seems really allegorical, but I still think the idea works. If you've never heard of Snowpiercer, you never had the opportunity to see it, check it out. It's really cool, good action movie, really exciting. Would recommend it. However, those are only the honorable mentions, so I will get into my top five. So at number five, I have Blue Ruin. This movie starts with a character named Dwight Evans, a wanderer who lives in his car, returning to his hometown to kill the man who murdered his parents 20 years ago after he is released from prison. It's a gripping thriller full of twists and turns, and it's exciting from beginning to end. But what really makes it special is the fact that it's a sort of inter-family drama, the story of a man trying to avenge and protect his family in spite of the fact that, deep down, he isn't a violent person. For this reason, it has the air of a tragedy, but in a way that never feels overdone or showy. The tragedy feels real because it is specific to the characters involved, and that always makes for a great story. Blair's performance as Dwight Evans is convincing and powerful, and the pacing of this movie feels just right. If you're in the mood for a short thriller that will keep you interested until the end, Blue Ruin is a great place to start. At number four, I have Her. Starring Joaquin Phoenix, Her is a film about a man who works for a company that sells pre-written letters for people who either can't or don't have the time or desire to write letters themselves. Phoenix's character, Theodore Twombly, is going through a divorce and begins to fall in love with the artificially intelligent virtual assistant in his operating system. For me, this is one of those movie concepts that has the potential to crash horribly. It could be so cliche, so predictable, but the movie works in large part because of the sincerity of Phoenix's performance. Moreover, I think the fact that this movie came out in 2013 was perfect timing. To put this into perspective, Facebook wasn't founded until 2003 and couldn't be used by the general global public until about 2006. It was in the years that followed that people really started to think about what a digital self might look like, and I think that movies that explored these themes at the time succeeded because of the freshness of the conversation. As an aside, I've made the same argument before about Ex Machina, which came out the following year in 2014. In the end, this movie is entertaining and intriguing. Its visuals are amazing. Phoenix, as always, is wonderful. And it's definitely still worth a watch, even if you feel timid about the idea of human software romance. All right, so coming in at number three, a movie I really love called Ida. So, set in Poland in 1962, Ida follows the life of a young woman who was orphaned during the German occupation of Poland during World War II, and who is about to enter the Catholic Church as a nun. When she goes to visit her aunt, her only surviving relative, before taking her vows, she learns that her parents were Jews who were murdered by the Nazis. Learning of her family's Jewish history obviously complicates her feelings about her commitment to Catholicism, and she decides to go on a road trip with her aunt across Poland to learn more about the history she knew nothing of before. This is a beautiful, brief movie about both family and political history, and about how these histories interconnect and affect our lives in confusing and sometimes violent ways. Shot in black and white, the movie feels historical from the beginning without feeling in any way contrived, as some contemporary black and white films do. The visuals are stunning, the performances and the score are fantastic, and ultimately the film's honing in on Ida and her personal life make for a moving and surprising end. I was lucky enough to stumble upon this movie almost by accident, and I'm so happy I watched it. When preparing for this episode, I learned that Ida was the first Polish movie to ever win the Academy Award for Best Foreign Language Film, and that seems fitting to me. I can't recommend it enough. And now we get into the top two, the controversial two. So at number two, I have Villeneuve's Enemy, starring Jake Gyllenhaal. Placing this movie at number 2 is in part intentionally provocative because I know a lot of Villeneuve fans who don't like it as much as I do, but I wanted to take the time to make the case for it. To give some background, it's based on a novel by the Nobel Prize winning Portuguese author José Saramago, so there's some literary inspiration for this film. I think part of the reason people don't always like this one as much is that it isn't a pure thriller. In the movie, Gyllenhaal plays a dissatisfied history professor who one day notices in the background of a movie he's watching an actor who looks identical to him. Their lives collide and chaos and confusion unfold. A storyline like this demands a certain amount of analysis and interpretation, and it can be frustrating when you get to the very bizarre, almost surreal ending without knowing exactly what happened. But I think the movie is worth the effort. Aside from how you decide to think about the movie's meaning, it's still just an overall fun drama. I found the story to be gripping as much as I enjoyed, for instance, how the movie uses the color yellow to develop an ominous, almost sinister mood. Even this is counterintuitive, since we usually associate yellow with things like sunshine and brightness, but the movie inverts this expectation and gives the color a new meaning. While the movie might be slow, it isn't long, and it's one of those that sets you up for a really rewarding second watch. I've returned to this movie more than once and enjoyed it every time, and of all of Villeneuve's movies, I think it is the most devastatingly underrated. Now, the coveted spot, number 1. So, finally, top spot of my movie rankings for 2013, we have everyone's favorite, Prisoners. Another Villeneuve movie, and interestingly, another Gyllenhaal as well. Prisoners tells the story of a father trying to find his daughter who has gone missing along with one of her friends. It focuses intently on the dynamics of a family wrapped in confusion, uncertainty, and insecurity. Hugh Jackman gives a stunning and vulnerable performance, playing a father racked with grief as he tries to understand what he is capable of doing in the midst of the desperate search for his child. And everything about this movie is impressive. The pacing is flawless, the twists are well placed and thoughtful, and the performances from every single cast member, Hugh Jackman, Jake Gyllenhaal, Viola Davis, Terrence Howard, Paul Dano, and Maria Bello, to name the biggest roles, are unforgettable. With Jackman playing the extrajudicial father and Gyllenhaal as detective, you can't go wrong. Ultimately, I picked this as my top choice because, on top of being a movie so entertaining that it always stands up to a rewatch, I think it really honestly delves into the central moral question of the film. How far is too far for a parent to go for their child? Are there ethical limits to what a single man can do for the well-being of his daughter? Is there a point at which Jackman's character goes too far? And if so, where is it, and how do we decide? The movie is interesting, intense, intelligent, and dark, and I was so fortunate to be able to see this in theaters when it first came out. It's a theater experience I will never forget. From the moment the movie starts with an uneasy, slow-moving shot of a wintry forest, I knew I would spend the rest of my time on the edge of my seat. Prisoners represents what is simply some of the best on-screen storytelling and inquiry into human behavior that I've ever seen. It's one of my favorite movies and easily tops my 2013 list.